I know, and I know a few who are genuine, like world-class players. Even they get rejected. Everybody gets rejected. Not every girl is gonna like you. That's fine. Move on. Like, and once you kind of like accept that as reality, the fear kind of disappears. You know, it's like, oh, cool. It's not a reflection on you as a man. If one particular girl decides that you're not her cup of tea, that's not really a reflection on you as a person, because she doesn't even know you. You just said hi, or you just walked up to her and asked her for a number, or whatever you said. That's all she has to make an assessment on you, is those like 10 seconds that you were in front of her. She doesn't know that you like donate to charity. She doesn't know you're a like banker. You know, she doesn't know shit about you. So like, don't stop basing your like self-esteem on those tiny interactions. Have fun with it instead.
Yeah, guys are, we're always creating these excuses of why we shouldn't do it, and then we don't do it, and then we end up feeling bad about it after it's done. So you see a girl and you really want to say something, but you just end up being that creep that stares at her through the parking lot, the other side of the parking lot. So and then you lose.
I see that all the time at work too. All the guys I work with, they all just stare and just with their mouths open. I'm like, bro, stop.
Yeah, I remember I was on vacation with my family, and I saw these two chicks at the bar, and I was just observing because I was with family. I'm not gonna make any. I'm just chilling. I see like the two girls, three different guys. We're getting close to her like one by one, and they were gonna go talk to her. And I could sense by the body language, and they looked like they were about to say something. And then they would kind of just like put their head down and then taking deep breaths. And then they would walk away. They wouldn't do it. Yeah. And I saw this like same thing happen like 3 different times. And I was like, yo, I'll be right back. I just because, I don't know, I had some burst of energy. So I went up there. I was like, excuse me, I'm just letting you know that like 3 different guys who were next to you tried to like hit on you. I'm not hitting on you, but I just want to let you know that. And she was like, yeah, I noticed a bunch of pussies out here. I was like, they know. They know. And guys are trying to come up to them. They get sense. And they have this intuition that the guy, when they're looking at them, they know they want to approach, and then know they don't. And they automatically lose respect for you anyway.
Yes.
So that's like, you lose if you don't. And that's 2 different guys. And she was like, wow. One guy actually came up to me. I was like, yes, have a good night. I'm not trying to do anything. I just want to have some fun, to be honest.
Exactly. And that's a big part of it, is just having fun being a social guy. Like, you can talk to people and not want anything from them. And that's a mistake, I think. Again, I think dudes, when they go out to approach. Well, okay, you can go out with the intention of approaching women, but a good habit to get into is the habit of talking to everybody.
Yeah, I say don't. Like, it's not just about, you don't have to just talk to women only. Talk to guys, make friends everywhere you go, because you never know what kind of connections you're going to establish by where you go, how you go. Like, it's really, you can make a friend anywhere, and you never know who you'll meet and how they can like be a part of your future. Like, you just never know. Yeah. And some guys are technically begging to be just talked to, because a lot of guys are very afraid to talk to others. So like when you go out, usually like no one wants to talk to each other. It's like like in high school, no one.
Yeah.
It's gonna get worse. This social anxiety is like a big thing.
Oh yeah. One of the thing I see in common amongst all my friends who are like legit high level players is they flirt with every woman. I mean, and I don't mean all the hot women. I mean all the ugly women, all the old women, the cashier, they flirt with every woman they interact with. They don't care how old she is, how ugly she is. They're flirting with her because it's a muscle, and that is a good thing. That is a good, healthy response and a good, healthy like dynamic to come from. Like, the way I interact with women is flirtatious. Great. Then it's autopilot. Whenever you actually meet an attractive woman, it's not something you put on. It's a default way of responding to her.
Yeah, and they can pick up on all this stuff,
Yeah.
Like, they can sense if you're backing up, or like, or if you're trying to make a move and then you don't. They're like, oh, just another one.
Well, what you were saying before about those 3 dudes, who try to go up to that chick and they all backed out, right? It's not even the fact that if you don't try, you lose. It's the fact that if you hesitate, you lose.
Yeah.
Because you notice that what she said, like, oh, I could tell they're pussies, they're losers. Because she could tell they were thinking about approaching her. So even if they did, the fact that they hesitated, she would have shot them down.
Yeah.
Because they hesitated.
Yeah. And then they don't even know what to say,
Yeah.
They get so caught up on what should I say to her in the beginning. You could easily just go up to a girl, be like, hi, can I meet you real quick? So easy. Like, you don't have to have this big, like, hey, are you from Tennessee? Because you're the only 10 I see. Like, you don't have to do some crazy. You don't have to do some crazy line. You just go say hi and just see what happens. Like, what do you have to lose? You know, like you could make it out of anything. Like, hey, it's a really cool purse, or I don't know, where'd you get that hat from? Like anything. It's like,
and you don't have to win, like either. Like
you're not the one. You just have to play.
Exactly. It's totally fine for you to go up to a girl and talk to her without any without it going right or without like wanting anything. It's like it's part of the muscle that you want to train to be social, because those are the guys that get chicks. Are just plain and simple. It's guys who are social. Exactly. Fucking talk to everyone. I don't care if you get anything out of it. You know,
girls just want a guy who just gets it.
Yeah, exactly. But that's kind of, like I said, I don't teach this stuff. I just know this stuff, and I have friends who teach this stuff. So it's like you just see it. You see the pattern again and again and again with dudes who have this sort of figured out.
Yeah, and then there's the guys. Well, what's your thought on like Nofap or this whole like semen retention thing? Is it effective, or what's your thoughts on that?
So my thought on it. So I'm pro Nofap. So okay. I agree with the idea of the tenet of like not fapping. Again, I think it's coming back to what I said at the beginning. I was like, if a guy comes to me with a problem with performance anxiety, erectile dysfunction, premature delayed ejaculation, the first thing I'll tell them to do is to stop watching porn, stop masturbating to porn. Honestly. And there's no real benefit to just like wasting away that kind of like your sex drive, your kind of like your masculine vigor into a tissue, right? However, I'm not a fan of like semen retention for the sake of semen retention. Like, if you have a beautiful woman in front of you, why not ejaculate? Like, I mean,
sorry, hon, I can't do this tonight. I'm on Nofap for the next month, so you just have to wait your turn.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's like, are you going to tell your girl that you're on semen retention? I mean, I know some guys do that, and I know there are legit guys who preach that, and I'm like, yeah, okay, but I know, like, the most masculine men I know, they're busting nuts every day. Like, they're not like concerned with retaining their semen because they're fucking living life. And that's the healthy place to get to. And then if you have a dry spell, then you have a dry spell and you don't fap. Cool. And then you use that energy, you build up that fucking energy and that intensity and that like sex drive. You're like, all right, let's go to the club or whatever it is. And you sort that problem out by attracting more women. And that's our biology. That's the correct way of being, if you ask me. So that, like, yes, there is like benefits to like retaining your semen within limits. And people who will talk about like Nofap and semen retention, they'll often quote that your testosterone levels increase. That is true, but apparently it stops after 7 days. It kind of stops. Like, so 7 days of like semen retention is realistically the maximum benefit you can get from semen retention. I believe there was a study done on that. So you'll see that. Like, so okay, retain your semen for 7 days and then bust on a woman's face. Like, that's my advice. You know?
What do you think guys' biggest problem in the bedroom is?
Depends upon the guy. I mean, depends upon the age of the guy. So old like younger guys. I'll start with younger guys. The most common thing I tend to get from younger dudes is like porn-induced erectile dysfunction or porn-induced delayed ejaculation. So what this is basically caused by the novelty response. So what ends up happening with these dudes who've been jerking off to like internet porn throughout their whole teens is once they have a beautiful woman in front of them, unfortunately, one beautiful woman is not as novel to their brain as like 20 tabs of pornography with 20 different women doing 20 different things. Yeah. That is more novel. And they've trained their brain to respond to that. So when they have a single beautiful woman in front of them, either they can't get it up because it's not as stimulating, there's not enough dopamine being released in their brain, it's not as stimulating enough, or they can get it up, but they can't ejaculate with their partner because they've spent their whole life learning how to fap with their hand and fap to something that's more novel than just a single beautiful woman. It's not exciting enough to make them lose control. So that's the biggest problem I see with particularly younger dudes. With older guys, sometimes it is premature ejaculation. That tends to be a problem for dudes who are kind of like 40s, 50s plus. Yeah. It's premature ejaculation, and that's actually a pretty easy problem to solve. Of all the problems, that's actually one of the easiest ones to solve. And then I think with all guys in general, this is the main thing that I try to push on to dudes these days is to kind of be unapologetically masculine, and especially in the bedroom. Like my whole kind of motto is like embracing like masculinity through bedroom mastery.
Oh yeah.
And I think the bedroom it's like the last bastion of masculinity. It's like the last place where a guy can actually be a man and adopt the masculine role, and women are totally fine with it. You know, if you walk around in modern Western society and try to adopt, say, traditional gender roles, you get looked at like you got two heads, right? Or you suggest, that men should be dominant and women should be submissive in their everyday life. People will look at you like you're some raging misogynist. But in the bedroom, that is pretty fine. So I tell guys to, like, especially if they're in a long-term relationship or a marriage or something like that, reinstating that masculine feminine dynamic, that dominant submissive polarity in the bedroom by leading, by being physically dominant, emotionally dominant, mentally, like, dirty talking, all these making strong solid eye contact, various things like this. By establishing that dominant role in the bedroom and doing that repeatedly, lo and behold, what they find is that their relationship's dynamic starts to fix itself. They start to, the woman, especially if he's getting her off, if he's dicking her down properly, laying pipe properly, the woman starts to adopt her more feminine. She gets to do her feminine. She gets more submissive. She gets less naggy. Women don't nag if they're being dicked down properly. So it's primal. It's a really basic primal kind of thing, but we tend to forget about that. We tend to get, like, our modern Western society tries to, like, feed us all this bollocks about, consent is sexy and all this kind of stuff. I mean,
yeah, not
yes,
nice. No,
consent's important. Yes, we're not retarded. Like, and that's something that I find particularly insulting when I hear people throw out that phrase like consent is sexy. Yeah. One, no, it isn't, you idiot. Like, this is like, and I don't mean to get your channel banned or anything. Like that, but
that'd be an honor to be banned.
But it's not this idea of, like, if you legitimately broke that down to like what it is practically in the real world, that idea of consent is sexy. If I was in bed with a woman and every 5 seconds I'm stopping and asking her, can I do this? Is it okay if I do that? Are you comfortable with this? Can I touch your elbow? Can I kiss you on the neck? Can I touch your, like?
This will be pour sand in her vagina. Just
exactly. She's gonna dry up quicker than the Sahara, like faster than the Sahara. It's like, no, that is fundamentally not sexy. What is sexy is a guy who just gets it. To coin a phrase from Rollo Tomasi, a guy who just gets it, a guy who intuitively can read a woman's body language and know how far he can push it, knows, like, where her boundaries are sexually. That is sexy. A guy who can take her right to the point where she's comfortable and not an inch further. That is sexy. That takes practice, that takes experience, that takes an understanding of the female body and female sexuality. But yeah, and the other part of this idea of, like, consent is sexy is the underlying assumption that every dude is a rapist, which is fucking ridiculous. Like, especially the kind of guy who is watching your content or watching my content, the kind of guy who wants to improve himself, the kind of guy who wants to get better with women, the kind of guy who wants to improve his fitness, the kind of guy who wants to improve in the bedroom and become a better lover. That man is like the least likely to, like, sexually assault a woman or push her boundaries. He's trying to be better for her. He's trying. It comes from that kind of a place mentally. It comes from a place of, I want women to like me. It doesn't come from a place of, I'm gonna do things that they don't like.
Yeah, that's why men should have options, I think. Yeah, because women don't know this, but that's what draws them in. Women want a guy who can get other girls.
Absolutely.
And the guy who just gets it is able to have options, able to pick, and he's able to, navigate that way. And he's not going to be so thirsty to the point where he's paying all, like, thousands of dollars on OnlyFans and all these girls. And it was just getting crazy these days. Like, it's getting absolutely insane.
Yeah, it's a real fucking money printer, and it shows it. it shows that there's a real divide in men in modern society. There's the kind of men who will do that and spend literally their whole paychecks just to get attention from a beautiful woman. Here's the thing that guys get wrong about OnlyFans. It's not about the sex. Not about seeing a pair of tits. OnlyFans is the real fantasy that is being sold on OnlyFans is the idea that you can talk to a beautiful woman and get attention from a beautiful woman with 0% chance of being rejected. That is actually the fantasy that OnlyFans is selling. That, and like the faux kind of relationship that guys can build with a woman from in that. But that's really it. It's not about the tits and the ass, because they can get tits and ass for free on Pornhub.
Yeah, legit. And if the guys are paying just to see that, I don't understand why they would do that, unless if
well, they have no options. As simple as that. If you have a bunch of options, a bunch of girls you're having sex with, you're not gonna be on OnlyFans. You're gonna be too busy with your girls. Yeah, just like they're gonna want to, and they're gonna fulfill your needs, and you're gonna have no reason to even want to buy it anyway. But a lot of guys are sexist. It's like that. There was that study in 2018 that was like ages 18 to 28. I think you know about that study, right?
Yeah. It was like how much was it? Like that hadn't had sex in like the last 12 months or something like that.
Yeah,
right?
It's like ages 18 to 30 something, and then women are still having sex the same rate. Like nothing's really changed with that.
Yeah, I mean that's like the 80-20 rule played out in real life. Really, it really is. It's like, okay, this percentage, the top 20% of dudes are getting all the poon, and women women do not understand this. Like you tell women that, like my friends, you might be familiar with the Fresh and Fit podcast. They're friends of mine out here in Miami, and like they'll ask girls this question very regularly on their show. Like they'll have their panel of girls, and they'll be like, all right, what percentage of men do you think are sexually active? And they'll be like, oh, like 80%. It's like, no. It is very much not that.
If that was true, we would all be out of a job, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, like, if that was true, I think
the economy would not be as prospering as if it was true.
Correct. Yes, the economy would be a lot less prosperous, but men would be a lot happier. Probably. Dudes would be a lot less frustrated.
McDonald's wouldn't be making so much money.
Yeah, look, and I think that's probably a good thing. So look, I'm here doing my little part to try and fuck over McDonald's in that way.
Yeah, and all these guys, they're afraid to lead. They're afraid to be dominant because they think that they're going to get in trouble of some sort. So they think that the girl doesn't want to be dominated, which, of course, the sales of 50 Shades of Grey has taught that otherwise. So if you look at just the numbers, look at the numbers.
DNI as well, and Sex Life.
Yeah, why is Sex Life so popular right now? Why is it number one in whatever country, number two? Because girls have this, it's a fantasy. I see girls on my Facebook, oh, I just want Sex Life, it was so great. I'm just like,
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing with like 50 Shades of Grey, and you can look at like, there's been studies done that, like, I think it's like 70% of women have fantasized about like being tied up, have fantasized about bondage. It's like it's a reported sexual fantasy of theirs, right? So you look at that, you look at things like 50 Shades of Grey, and you look at, there was another Netflix thing that came out last year, 365 DNI. It was another perfect example. And, geez, what the hell was that? The chat, you've been spammed in the chat.
Yep. Yeah. We have not experienced that yet. That
was kind of interesting. Okay, cool. Let's forget that.
Very nice. We love
moving along.
Yeah, moving along.
Anyway, so you look at the prevalence of, those kind of shows or books and media. You're like, well, where is this coming from? My theory on it, right, is that there is such a lack of masculinity in the Western world today that it's the natural like effect of that is women craving masculinity more in the bedroom and craving it to a more extreme end. So naturally, it manifests itself at this lack of masculinity in their everyday lives. They try to make up for that in the bedroom, and that manifests itself in BDSM fantasies, bondage fantasies, all these more extreme fantasies, which basically are dudes expressing their dominance and their masculinity more over the woman. So I think it's just a natural, to me, I think that's just a natural consequence of the world we live in. And it's It's
Yeah, the
like
easy
you
world
can't get
where-
away from that. You can't get away from that. Our primal nature in our sexuality. You can't avoid it. You can. What's the old Ayn Rand quote? You can avoid reality all you want, but you can't avoid the consequences of avoiding reality. It's going to come out one way or another.
Exactly. Because, the things that you do will just, come right back. Whatever you do, there will be a consequence for no matter what it is. And if you, decide to not, do those things, you're going to get fucked. But, if you actually try and actually do these things, you might get rewarded. It's all based upon that.
Yeah,
I mean, the world's just gotten so comfortable that
that too.
If you get lazy and stuff, you're going to get consequences. If you're, but if you actually try to do the specific things you want, you follow your dreams and all this other stuff, you might be rewarded and you might succeed. You might, become very successful in whatever it is you want to do.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Comfort is the enemy of men. And this is, we make this fundamental mistake in our society, is that we conflate comfort with happiness. You think about like the consumerist society is kind of sells that dream of like, if you're more comfortable, you will be happier. So it's like, okay, well, here's a dishwasher that does all your dishes for you. Here's a laundry machine that does all. Here's a reclining chair. Here's a TV with 50. Here's Netflix with like 1 million fucking channels and all you can choose. You can just here's Uber Eats. Just sit. You don't even have to cook. Sit there on your fat ass and we'll deliver the food for you. It's all about selling comfort, but comfort is not happiness. Like accomplishing things, fulfillment, striving, like achieving a goal. This is actually happiness, and that is far from comfort. The real happiness is in like climbing a mountain. And my buddy, he has this saying, is like, when a man, like, because you have to have, as a man, you have to have goals. You have to have goals. You have to strive and achieve and trying to attain things. And you better believe, like, once you get to the top of your mountain, that you look for the next biggest mountain to climb, because that's how men die. Inside is when they get everything they want. That's how a man dies. He gets everything he wants, and he stops looking for more. He stops looking for the next big thing, the next challenge.
Yeah,
it's what you see guys who are like hyper successful. You think like, what the heck? Why do they not stop? You see people asking this question all the times. Like Bezos. I don't what. I'll critique Bezos as much as the next guy, but this is an example. Bezos or Musk, or like these dudes who've like accomplished multiple things on a very high level. You're like business wise, at least. You're like, where are they going to stop? Or Arnold Schwarzenegger in his heyday was a good example of this. Like, okay, Mr. Olympia 6 times, or whatever, and now he's going to become a friggin' movie star. It's like, and then he's going to become governor of California. It's like, when is enough? And it's like, it's never enough.
Never enough. Yeah.
You have to keep pushing, otherwise you die.
People always trying to sedate themselves. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't. You comfort, sedation. It's the same thing. They're trying to sedate themselves into happiness, and you can't sedate yourself to happiness. You have happiness is in becoming comfortable in the uncomfortable. And we kind of knew that. Like ancient Romans kind of knew this stuff. Like the ancient world. As I'm not trying to be that guy who's like, nostalgic for a long gone era, but traditional teachings. We kind of understood this, like ancient philosophy kind of understood this idea of, you have to be comfortable in the uncomfortable, that, working and achieving goals is how men achieve fulfillment in life. And so we've kind of lost our way to a large extent, I think.
Oh yeah, no, I think so too.
And I feel like especially when you put it into the in the way of the ancient times, it was very important for them to also learn these things about having goals and setting them, because that's kind of how we even got to this point in the first place. How we got the rise of civilization, rise of all the technologies that we have now. Like people had these goals and they fulfilled them, but now for the younger generations now, they don't, some of them may not even know what goals that they should even be brought upon them, because that they're in the comfort of everything that had come before them.
Yeah.
So they're just like, oh cool. And they feel like they have nothing else to achieve, but there can be so much more, but we don't know. That's up to them to find out. Well,
it's kind of a double-edged sword, right? Because there's no like new frontier to explore. There's no, you can't like rewind the clock, hundreds of years, and it's like, oh well, You could get on like a ship and sail across, the oceans and maybe discover like a new land, maybe like a new people to conquer or whatever the hell, right? There's no like undiscovered territory. There's like scientifically, we've covered quite a lot. We've kind of come to a lot of realizations. Those things are like sort of slowing down a bit. So it's like, what else is there left to sort of strive for and achieve? And especially, like you said, the average person today lives better than kings did hundreds of years ago. In terms of all the creature comforts we have, the access to everything we have, we all live better than kings and emperors did back in the day. Like the wealthiest of the wealthy. We are living better than them. And so when you consider that, it's like, well, what do you do? And that's the fundamental problem, is that you have to kind of go to war with yourself in a way. Like you have to set your own goals and your own things to achieve. And you might think, well, why? Just because is the only answer I have for you. Like you just have to, okay? Just trust me that you have to, because otherwise you're gonna sit there and stagnate and you're gonna die. So what things can a young man focus on? Well, like all of life's problems come from one of three areas: health, wealth, or relationships. So those are the things that you should fundamentally focus on. So that means
not taking care of any of those things. So it's like
Yeah.
Learn to make money. Learn to be fit and healthy and like a strong, capable man, and learn how to attract the kind of women that you want into your life, and how to be abundant with women. Those are the three things that you have to. If you're not going to focus on anything else, focus on those things at least. If you don't have some big, hairy, audacious goal to strive for, like you're going to build the next, you're going to build the next SpaceX or whatever the hell your goal might be. If you don't have that, if you can't think of anything like that to sort of get you out of bed in the morning, then focus on those three things: health, wealth, relationships, and conquer those. Because if you can conquer those things, you will be a successful man on all metrics. Like those are the cylinders to fire on, really. Like if you can become physically capable, if you can be of value enough value to society that people pay you for your time and your expertise and your knowledge or your skill sets, and if you can become abundant with women, then you've basically figured out life. You figured out the three keys to life in general, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just it's be very interesting to see how the years progress from now, because I guess your environment can affect you, but you could also choose to make a choice of how you live your life. You could choose to let it affect you. You could choose to build stuff anyway. It's all about, I think it's all about free will and choice. What choice will you make? Even though you could blame, because we like to have a victim mentality. A lot of people like to blame things. My parents, I grew up from a single mom, so now I can't do anything, or I have no money, so I'm never going to be able to make money, or girls don't like me because I'm fat, and all these things that you can impact. You can lose weight, you can build muscle at the gym, get a gym membership. You don't even need a gym membership. You can go on YouTube and learn anything. You can learn about nutrition, you can learn about diet, you can learn about intersexual dynamics, and you can go out there and experience it yourself. But you can't just masturbate on the internet all the time. You actually have to go out and actually experience life. You can't just read about it. You have to actually go in and experience. But guys just want to be on the internet and learn. And I read this book, so now I know. No, man, you got to go. You cannot read how to play guitar. You have to go play guitar.
Yeah.
You cannot read about it. You have to talk to one in front of your face. Otherwise, you're never going to know. It's all about the choices that you make that impact how your life goes. But if you just sit around blaming, well, I can't do this because of him, because of her, because of them, even because of you, because you do this to yourself. You treat others and you affect others how you affect yourself and treat yourself.
Absolutely, man. And that's the thing. A lot of guys will make excuses. Yes, a lot of guys will make excuses. There's this whole kind of movement in the I guess the men's self-help space right now, where dudes will sort of say, "Oh, if I'm not model level good looking, then no women will talk to me."
I don't have the super jawline. If I'm not six pack abs, Brad Pitt from Fight Club,
dude, I'm here. I can tell you right now. You give me any drawback, list them. List any excuse, list any drawback, list any hindrance, any reason a guy can come up to with any reason why he isn't getting laid, and I'll find a guy with that exact problem who is getting laid. You don't have any money? I'll show you plenty of broke musicians who are getting laid.
You don't need money to get laid. That is confirmed. That is confirmed. All you need is a car. No, I'm joking.
Yeah, if you're a fat guy, I can show you Patrice O'Neal, perfect example of a fat motherfucker who got laid like a G.
Yeah, his game
If
was on fire.
Exactly. If you're short, if you're tiny, I can show you plenty of dudes who are short who are pulling pussy. Like, give me any excuse, and I will show you a real world example of someone who overcame that. And it's like when I see that, if you accept that reality, I don't know how you can then sit around and not work on yourself. Well, it's like, because I've always had come from the perspective of like, what one man can do, another man can. If someone has accomplished a certain thing, then I can accomplish it too. I've always fundamentally believed that, whether it's true or not. Like whether or not, maybe I'll never, like, I'm 34 years old. I'm not going to make the NBA. Like, okay, cool. But within reason, damn near anything I set my mind to, I know I can achieve because another man has achieved it. And that's a shift in mindset of taking responsibility for your life. That's something that most people need to do, especially men need to do. Need to find a way to take responsibility for every aspect of their life, even if it isn't your fault for whatever reason. Finding your role in it, finding how it could have been your fault a little bit, is important. Because when you once you take responsibility for everything, then you can start affecting change, and you can start directing your life the way you want it to be. But it starts with taking responsibility. You can't just magically expect things to fall from the sky into your lap.
Yeah, like I lost 70 pounds, and I had to look at myself in the mirror and you have to say, I'm fat because no, it's not because of this movie was on and I just accidentally ate the whole thing of ice cream. I'm fat because I keep eating and I'm not moving enough and I don't know what I'm eating and I have to learn of how to fix that. And then I made that choice and lost the weight. Boom. Like you have to be able to understand that you have the power. Like you ever see that movie Bruce Almighty?
Yeah.
And they're mopping and then God is like, you have to be the miracle, in that scene. So that's how I kind of think of it. Like you have to do the work. That's what Cooper says. And
exactly.
Guys don't think they can. And, they're not, I guess maybe there's a lack of encouragement. It could be. But, you shouldn't have to always have encouragement. Like you got to have some type of self-discipline in order to get things done.
Yeah. Stop looking for motivation. Like stop looking for that, like, because people make that's a mistake that people make. And I'm guilty of having made this mistake in my early 20s. Is like, oh, if I was just more motivated, I just need to find that source of motivation and then I'll do all the work. Nah, because that's a fleeting emotion. What you actually want is discipline. Discipline is the core skill that all of the skills are based upon. If you can develop discipline, and discipline is a muscle, it's a habit, it's a reflex. If you can build your discipline muscle, then you can do fucking anything. I don't give a shit what it is. Because it's basically it's a case of like, I say I'm gonna do something, and so I do it regardless of how I feel. That is what discipline is. So cultivating discipline is stupidly important.
Yeah.
And a lot of people sort of, here's why a lot of young men don't have discipline, is because they weren't disciplined by their parents or by their father in particular. You can't, it's very hard to learn to have self-discipline if no one else has ever shown you discipline. That's where it comes from. Like you have to, because it's about boundaries and respect and about like, you say you're going to do something and so you do it, right? That is what discipline's about. And
guys are not encouraged to have boundaries either. They're not encouraged to have boundaries. Like if guys have standards and boundaries, that's bad. No. And it's conditioned the whole life, you shouldn't have to, guys are not allowed to have standards on dating apps, for example, right? Like I want a woman who does this and this. That's not allowed. If you do that, you're done,
Yeah, and like what you call it, and also a lot of the young boys, especially, most of them are not doing like combat sports or any of those things where they can learn discipline. Maybe not from their parents, but from an external third party. Because I did martial arts when I was a child, and that's how I was reinforced into the discipline. I got discipline from my house, which my parents did a great job, I feel. And on top of that, I got extra discipline through combat sports, through doing like martial arts and stuff, where you can learn self-discipline and all these other attributes. A lot of kids, they're not doing it, or those third parties aren't teaching the way that they used to.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think look, I think martial arts is probably the most important thing a young man can do. When I was growing up, I played basketball my whole life. That was the thing I picked. I wish I had been put in a boxing ring. I picked up boxing as an adult, and I love it. I absolutely love knowing that I can throw a punch and knowing that I can slip a punch if I need to. Like so being the ability to fight, the capacity for violence is very important with men, I think. And I also know how to use a firearm. That's another part of having the capacity for violence in today's day and age. I think that's a very important thing for a dude to have. It's a competency that a fundamental competency of being a man, like strength and the capacity for violence, the ability to protect yourself and your loved ones is fundamental to being a dude, right? And what better sport to start a young man in, especially a kid, because kids can't really punch each other like too hard, and you can't actually hurt each other because you're tiny. You're not throwing, you're not punching with much force. So, or any martial art, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is another great example of that. Like starting off as a young man learning martial arts, like you said, great for discipline, but it's great for so many other aspects of being a man. My buddy, who's him and his wife are trying to conceive right now. He's like, me and him talk a lot about like rites of passage and like how we might raise our sons, because I want to raise kids, I want to have kids. And we talk about like, okay, how, because we don't have rites of passage really in the Western society anymore. So we talk about, well, what can we do with our sons? How can we give them a rite of passage? And his idea currently is to send his kids, once they hit like 10, send them off to Dagestani fight camp for like 5 years. So they can learn to like wrestle bears and shit and come out like not soft, basically. That's what his idea is. And I don't think it's a terrible idea, if I'm being perfectly honest.
I can't say it's a terrible idea either. Do you want kids one day?
Absolutely. Yeah, I intend to have a lot of kids. Yeah.
And what are you with 34 right now?
Yeah, 34. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I find that a lot of guys get shamed for wanting to have kids later in life. You find that happening? Because I see it around me all the time. Like, oh, like I'm 26, and people are like,
yeah, look,
why are you not having kids? You know, you should be working on finding a wife. I'm just like, bro, I'm 26. What are you talking about?
I disagree. Yeah, like as a dude, like you don't really hit your stride until you're like in your 30s. For most men, I mean, there's obviously exceptions.
If you take care of yourself, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, because it takes time to build. Like all the things that make a man valuable take years to accumulate.
Exactly. Man must become.
Right. Exactly. Like so, muscles, money, like networks. Right, these things take time. So, okay, when a dude's like hitting his like, I fundamentally believe that like the correct dynamic, like the correct like partnership is like a dude in his 30s and a woman in her like late teens, early 20s. I think that's an appropriate relationship dynamic for like building a family. I really do, because she's at her most fertile, she's at her most like attractive, he's at his most attractive, and he's at his most competent. Like. And lo and behold, that's kind of how we used to do it. For like millennia, that was typically how it worked. You know, and now we're like, oh, we're like 30-year-old man, 30-year-old woman is how we were taught. This is how it's supposed to work. Now we're supposed to be or dudes are partnering down at earlier ages. No, I don't think that's quite right.
Yeah, things have changed a lot over the years, and you know, there's a lot of garbage and propaganda going around. Like everywhere you turn, it's just everywhere. You know. They're trying to make men and women like this equalism, the kind of thing. I mean, you know, rights are cool and everything, but people don't understand that fundamental human dynamics are not, you know, all we like it to be. You know, nature is what nature is.
Yeah, that's the quote of the day. You know? I like that quote. Rights are cool and everything, but I like that. I'm gonna steal that. No, but you're not wrong. I mean, like men and women are different. It's like. This argument of like equality is like, well, okay, are apples and oranges equal? Well, no, because they're not the same, and neither are men and women. Yes, we can have we're complementary. Exactly, we're complementary. We're not the same. We're fundamentally quite different in the way we interpret the world, in our emotional drives, in all these kinds of things. So. Yeah, we can give each other like equal rights and stuff. Like, okay, you can freaking like we can all vote. Okay, we can all drive. All right, we can all get a job. Cool. Like these things don't really matter in terms of like the differences between us. But expecting us all to kind of conform to these boxes is a fundamental error, and one of the most heinous errors that we make in our society is the public school system. I think is like
Oh yeah.
Public school is like is something that teaches. It really teaches young boys that they're defective girls.
That's correct.
It tells them to sit down, shut up, listen, conform, like obey. It kind of turns them into well-behaved slaves.
They want us to be factory workers, man. Like all of us. That's what they want.
Exactly. They want men especially. They want men to be just fucking tax.
They want us to be useful. Yeah.
And this is also
right. You know.
By the way, this is also like where they've fucked women over too, with feminism and all the lies of feminism. All it's really done, because prior, we used to be able to support a family on like a single wage. The man would provide for his wife and kids. It was fine. Then someone had the genius idea. Okay, you know what? There's like 50% of the population here that aren't paying taxes. Let's convince them that they all need jobs. Let's convince them they're being oppressed. Never mind the fact that they don't actually have to go to work. Never mind the fact that they're in a happy family and they like looking after kids. Forget all that. Let's convince them that they're being oppressed. Let's convince them that what they actually want is to be exactly like men. Then we can tax all of them. Ta-da! We have modern society.
Get the money. Get the money.
It's like all this stuff. Like I hear it all around me, like all this feminism garbage, and I'm just like, who built your house? Because it wasn't a bunch of women; it was a bunch of men that built your house. You're just trying to bring them down. Like the guys who created the society, you're trying to limit their potential and what.
Yeah,
this doesn't make any sense to me.
I mean, all these like equality arguments. You never see anyone fighting for like equal representation amongst like sanitation workers. You never see anyone fighting for equal representation amongst garbage collectors. This stuff you don't see this. And there's a reason for that. It's not about equality. It's about power. It's about exerting power and control over people. Again, making the majority of men into obedient, compliant slaves.
Yeah. And I see all these like empowered career women, and they're all like really like pretty depressed. Like, I'm out in the field, right? And like, I'll go out asking for dates, and it's like, it was a common thing. Like, oh, work was so hard on me this week, I can't go out. And I'm just like, and, I just worked 80 hours for my boss, and, and so much work drama. It's just miserable, and like all the antidepressant levels are insane. Like, it's just like, it's insane. Like all just making them miserable. Yeah,
man. It's, yeah, so how's that oppression going? How's that all that like equal rights going for you? Like, oh, it's oppressive to be at home and keep a home and look after the man you love, right? Cook and clean for the man you love. That's oppressive. But working 80 hours a week for a CEO who doesn't give a shit about you, that's not oppressive. Got
That's
it.
what I'm saying,
Okay.
I know this one girl who works at this like deli, and she's like a self-renowned feminist, always hating on like Facebook and everything, and all these posts. And then meanwhile, she's actually just making sandwiches in the back of a deli, and the CEO of the company is a guy. So I'm just like, who really won here?
Yeah,
I think you've lost this battle.
But you point that out, and you're the bad guy.
Of course. Yeah,
always the bad guy.
It's always me. It's always the guy who actually says something. Because once you speak up, you're gonna get canceled, and they're gonna want to come after you. And it's fun for them because they get to feel something. They get to emote on you, and you because as like what Scarface said, I'm the bad guy. Like someone's got to be the bad guy, right?
Yeah, and everybody thinks that they're the good guy. Everybody. In history is always like, I guarantee you, like Hitler, Pol Pot, Mao, Marx, Stalin, they all fundamentally believe that they were the good guy. Everybody thinks they're the good guy, even if they're not.
And we try to take a logical approach to things. Sometimes it's not about whether something is good or bad. It's about what is, and like you want to get down to the facts, but people don't want to think about the facts because they're too busy trying to feel some reaction or something, and logic is just being thrown out the window, and nobody wants to look at the statistics because they're too busy worrying about all this other stuff, and the whole world is just it's going crazy at the moment.
Well, it's weird. It's a weird thing to say, but I think it'd be a fair statement to say we live in the least logical, most emotionally driven time in history, and that's saying a lot considering we used to sacrifice people to the sun.
I think so. It's only gonna get weirder from here, man. Is these kids, these younger generations are gonna grow up into all this technology and all these woke all this woke propaganda, all these movies. Like I think they just screwed up He-Man. I have a friend who's really upset about that right now.
I saw memes of that going on. He-Man, yeah. I had it. It's weird. I had a He-Man action figure as a kid, but I never actually recall watching it. I just had the action figure, so I don't really have much of an association with He-Man or much nostalgia around He-Man.
You try to take everything we once loved. Like in Star Wars, I'm never gonna forgive Disney for what they did to Star Wars.
Well, here's the thing. Here's why they fucked up Star Wars. Or here's how they fucked up Star Wars. Okay, so what you've got to understand about the original trilogy of Star Wars, right? It's the hero's journey. That's the fundamental. It's like one of the most classical, like storyline tropes there is. The hero's journey, and the reason that is a successful plot device is because men understand it and relate to it. It's based upon the idea of men must become like men. A man overcoming trials and tribulations and finding himself and achieving a degree of competency and accomplishing things. That is the hero's journey. Cool. What happens when you have feminists and effeminate men writing these scripts, as is what happened with the new Star Wars trilogy, is they write these Mary Sue characters. And a Mary Sue, for those who aren't familiar, is someone who's just good at, as particularly a woman character, who's just good at everything basically instantly.
Yeah.
And here's why they write characters like that. It's because, well, they're women. The feminists and the effeminate men, for the most part, are women. And so they're relating to the female experience. And the female experience is one where you just inherently have value. Women are born with inherent value. Their beauty, their youth, these are in their fertility. These are inherently valuable things about the feminine, which they're naturally just born with. And men, on the other hand, like we said, have to create that value. So, yeah, if you're a woman, of course you're not really going to relate to the hero's journey. Of course you're going to write a Mary Sue character, especially if you're a feminist. She's everything that these men can't be. Go her, yay, empowerment women. But no one relates to the story. It's a shit story. It's like, okay, I walk in the door and I can magically do everything. That's not a story. That's just it's trash, which we've seen on the screens. And then obviously they try to shove Vice Admiral gender studies down everyone's throat, which was goddamn hilarious. That freaking pink-haired ridiculousness that they had in that first episode. It was hilarious.
This is insane. They're losing money of all this stuff, like the Gillette commercial. Gillette lost billions of dollars because they try to appeal.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing about Gillette, right? Well, this actually is a good example. This is how you know that women make in the Western world, women make the majority of the purchasing decisions.
Yeah.
Like men earn the vast majority of the money, but women spend it. That's an actual.
Look, I just give women their credit cards anyway.
Statistical truth. Women are the spenders in society. So, and you know that's true because look at what Gillette did. They were willing to ostracize their entire target market, which is men. They were willing to shove them under the bus just to pander to the consumers, which are women. That tells you everything you need to know. And I think it's what we're seeing with Disney, it's what we're seeing with Netflix, it's what we're seeing with damn near every major, we're seeing this with corporate America in general, is this sort of pandering, because that's where the money is coming from. That's where the money is being spent. It's dudes coming out, it's dudes going out and earning money, and they're giving their paychecks to their wife, and their wife is going and spending it. And she's gonna spend it on things that pander to her emotions. So ta-da, this is of course the logical conclusion.
And guys don't want to take control either because, I'll let her steal the wheel. I'm sure we'll be fine. Because they're just taught to sit back, relax, and let her lead. This is the new world that we're entering into, and it's being bought into pretty easily. It's like there's no fight. It doesn't feel like there's much of a fight going on. Because I can't think of not many people that think like Mike and I do, like around our area, like an environment. You really see how people think, by the plenty of people that we've interacted with, our friends, family. Not many people really think really critically think about the system and like what's really going on. And it's kind of sad because if I talk to someone about this, they're gonna be like, Andrew, what are you talking about? We just sit down, relax, just calm down, go to work, come home. Like people will come at you for anything, and like people don't like certain ways that people live their lives, and people don't really question why they're doing what they're doing. You
Yeah,
know?
they're just okay with it. They're just like, yeah, this is fine.
Ah,
Everything's
COVID.
fine here.
Well, I just wear my mask forever. It doesn't matter,
Fire.
whatever.
There's fire all around. Yeah, this is fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
They don't see fire.
And this is what I've actually quite enjoyed about this last year.
Enjoy the decline.
Especially, well, I don't necessarily enjoy the decline, but with this whole, especially with this COVID thing, right? What it has done is it has made it very, very easy to identify between people, and it's like it's people like us. We see eye to eye on quite a lot of stuff, right? Like I said, it's hard for you to find guys who are kind of like-minded. I've had the similar problem, but the internet has kind of shone a light on guys like us, because there's a lot of dudes like us who are looking for guys like us. It's like there's a lot of dudes who are kind of like who are out there right now who are feeling kind of lonely.
They know something's wrong, but they can't figure out what it is.
There's something. They know there's something wrong. They know there's something's up, and they can't. And the worst thing is they can't really speak up about it for fear of being ostracized, for fear of being cancelled.
That's right.
So they can't speak up. So they look for like-minded men. They find guys like us, but the problem is that they can't connect in the real world. They can't connect face to face because this is just online stuff.
That's one of the good things about the internet. Is that the internet? One of the good things that it can bring people like us together, right? To have the discussion is very important. Just not necessarily following any rules or ideas, but just hearing certain information. Like when you read the Rational Mail, right? All this, you found it from word of mouth, of course, but like without the internet, you would not be able to connect with all these people. And that's the good thing about it, is that you can find it may be a little hard because the internet's trying to tone down all these kind of content, right? Because they don't want this kind of message getting out. But some people, they will find, right? They'll find us if they really look, and it's like breaking out of the matrix, it's tough and it's not easy necessarily to do, but you need to really ask yourself, like, what am I really doing? What do I really want in my life? And then go for what you want. Because a lot of people are very afraid to actually, go for the things they want and pursue their passions, fear of being ostracized or the fear of failing, which you have to fail. You have to get rejected in life. It's just part of the journey. It is critical that you get rejected because it'll teach you everything you need to know.
Yeah. One of my early mentors, he taught the kind of phrase he instilled in me was fail forward fast. So that means, take the risks, make mistakes, but do it in the correct direction and do it quick. And so like, as in learn from it. So you keep moving where you want to go and do it quickly. It's better to fail quickly than it is to fail slowly. Yeah. So make the mistakes quickly, learn from them, move forward. You're right. It's part of every part of life is about learning, is about making mistakes and learning from them. The person who's more successful is just the guy who's learned from more mistakes than you. That's really it. Like
exactly
with everything in life, they've learned the million ways to not do this particular thing.
Exactly. What do you think is like the biggest myth in the porn industry in these days?
Biggest myth. I think it is the idea that it's kind of the myth I believed going into it and was proven wrong. The idea that every girl in porn is a nymphomaniac. This is not the case. I can guarantee you this is fundamentally not the case. So I lump women in the porn industry into like 3/3. So like the first third are genuine nymphomaniacs, and they're awesome to work with. They're fantastic. They make the job easy. And the way I kind of differentiate them is like they're the kind of girls who are like sucking my dick before the camera's even rolling. We're learning like the dialogue, we're learning lines, and she's like jerking me off or something. Like there's chemistry like immediately. Those are the third that make the job great. Then there's another third, which I call professionals. So these have like a boyfriend at home or a husband or some kind of partner. So they're more professional and reserved with their affection. So they'll get to set, they'll be on time, they'll learn their lines, but they won't be like I said, sucking your dick before the camera's rolling. But once the camera is rolling, then they're going to give you all their energy, and it's a great time. So they're not as fun as the first third, but they're still fun. They're still professional. The last third are the ones that make the job difficult, and they're what I call the divas. So typically these are typically they're younger girls who've kind of come into the industry, and they get overwhelmed by like their ego gets ratcheted up to 10. Their narcissism gets ratcheted up to 10. Because they're constantly being told they can do no wrong. They're constantly getting approval from every single dude they ever interact with. So all the directors, performers, lighting guy, makeup girl, all their fans. Everyone's telling them they're amazing, they're perfect, just for sucking some dick. And it gets to their head. They become a diva. They become a bit of a headache to deal with on set, and they kind of get this attitude about them of like, oh, you're just lucky to be anywhere near my vagina. And they are the ones that kind of make the job the challenging, difficult part. They're the ones you have to like pull out all these mental tricks in your head to get the job done. So that's kind of the fundamental mistake that a lot of guys think, is they think they're all there. And the unfortunate thing is the vast majority, not all, but the vast majority of the girls that are really, really popular with the fans tend to be the ones that are the pain in the ass for me to work, like guys like me to work with. But they're the ones that get booked all the time. So it's like this kind of double-edged sword. It's like, oh, son of a bitch. The ones that I have to work with more regularly are the ones that the fans love, but I hate. So it's a bit of a dick around.
Here's a good question. This guy is, please ask Stirling what motivates him.
Marlon. How you doing, Marlon? Good to see you. For the most part, proving people wrong. That is what.
Okay.
That
I like that too. I like that very much. It's a hobby of mine, really.
Yeah, that has been one of my like the ability to turn around and tell someone "fuck you" has been one of the biggest motivating factors in my entire life. From be it like a bully when I was a little kid, be it an ex-girlfriend who broke my heart, be it I don't know, like a former co-star of mine who says I'm a misogynist now.
Yeah, I've gotten that before.
The ability to turn around and go, fuck you, look at my bank account is a very, very lovely feeling. For the most part. In everything. Well, not necessarily just the bank account, whatever it is. To be like, I am better off and happier than you and more fulfilled than you. Go suck a bag of dicks. That is a very, very fun feeling.
Nothing wrong with that. Has the industry like changed over the years, or is it like, have you seen a fundamental shift since you started until now? Not
really since I got in. I've been doing it for 4 or 5 years now, and I kind of came in. I didn't come in during any kind of big transitionary period. I know people who have been in, so since like who've been in the industry since before Pornhub even existed, and you talk to them and there's like a massive difference. But for me, nothing has really fundamentally changed in the time that I've been in the industry. For the most part.
Other than like OnlyFans, I guess, because I know.
Well, yeah, OnlyFans would be the big thing that has changed.
You think it's running the industry? OnlyFans?
You know what? Not really. I mean, it's put a lot of money back into the hands of like talent, really. Because so what happened in terms of the economics of the porn industry? So what happened back, prior to Pornhub? Before Pornhub, people were making money, like really big money, and actors were being paid really well. Directors were being paid really well. So I know directors who've worked on either side of like the Pornhub era, right? Now, so this guy will work 25, 30 days a month to make a living. Before Pornhub, he would have to work maybe 5 days a month, and he'd make more money than he's making now. That gives you an idea of how much the payouts have changed, right? So the same amount of money still exists in the porn industry, but it's all gone to basically to MindGeek, which is the overarching company that owns Pornhub. It's a Canadian company. They own Pornhub, they own Brazzers, they own Babes, they own Rowley Kings. They all own a whole bunch of brands. So it's all the same company, right? And so most of the money has gone to them, and the wages for like talent, the rates for talent and directors have dried up a bit. Now, OnlyFans has come around. And all the talent is like, aha, here is a way for us to directly monetize our fan base, which is a great thing. Unfortunately for directors and for all the other guys who work on porn sets, it's a bit of a fuck around. The directors and the PAs and the lighting guy and the makeup girl, they're not getting any of this. So it sucks for them. But for us in front of the camera, it's a fantastic thing. It's a fantastic opportunity. Do I think it's going to stick around? Well, look, they're trying to. OnlyFans are trying to make an effort to kind of push and separate themselves from adult stuff.
Might be too late for that.
You see this. They've made some big pushes. What they're trying to do basically is bring in minor celebrities and even regular celebrities onto the platform. And here's why. So we built them up. The adult industry built them up. They wouldn't exist without us. But they've already got all of our money. They've got all the money from our fans. So how do they grow? Well, the way they grow is by bringing in these sort of minor Instagram celebrities, YouTube celebrities, whatever the hell, all these other people, like rappers, musicians, whatever. bringing them onto the platform and bringing their fan base with them onto the platform to spend money. So it makes sense from a business standpoint to sort of cater less to adult stuff and cater, even though, you know, when a musician comes on, when someone like Cardi B goes on to OnlyFans to create an OnlyFans, she's showing her titties or whatever, but it's like, it's not adult when they do it. It's only adult when we do it.
Yeah. If a virgin comes to you asking for advice, what would you tell them? I'm sure you've had a few of those. Right?
Yeah, I actually have had a couple of those come to me. The first thing what I'll tell them is, like, the first time you, like, just don't put so much pressure on yourself. Here's what I'll say. Nobody is good at sex the first time they have it. Nobody. Sex is a learnable skill, just like any other. It takes experience. It takes, you know, a bit of study. And they can come to my YouTube channel and learn that for free. But if you're a virgin, if you're a dude and you're a virgin, just have fun with it. That's what I'll focus primarily on, enjoying yourself.
Yeah.
Rather than worrying about, like, performing, rather than worrying about getting the girl off, like, because you're not going. I'm here to tell you, you're not going to. You don't know what you're doing, and you're probably, if you're a virgin dude, you're probably, for the most part, you're probably going to be with a girl who's relatively inexperienced as well. So, like, just have fun, and when I say have fun, I don't necessarily just mean only get yourself off, but like, enjoy, like, smile, giggle, laugh, don't take it too seriously. Just enjoy it and relax and because it's far better to have that experience. And okay, whoop-de-doo, don't expect yourself to last very long because you're a fucking virgin, you know, and sort of accept that as for what it is. And then, okay, as you have more experience, you'll get better. Cool. Rather than building up this expectation and having all this pressure on yourself and then going into it and making it a very anxious experience. That's not what you want. That's the complete opposite of what you want sex to be.
Yeah, I mean, what about guys who, like, have performance anxiety?
A lot of that comes from, like, one of the main reasons for performance anxiety is, again, this idea of they're trying to impress the girl. They're trying to please the girl. They're too much. Like, they're focusing on it. They come from the mental frame of, oh, I really hope she likes me. I really hope I get her off. I hope I'm as good as her last boyfriend or her last lover. They're putting all this performative pressure on, right? So what I actually tell guys, if they have that problem, if they're coming from that frame of mind, what I actually teach them is a thing I call the selfish pervert frame of mind. And so rather than coming at sex from, like, I really hope she likes me kind of frame, you combine these two kind of elements of being selfish but being perverted at the same time, and you combine them like this. So if you were just selfish, yeah, you'd go into sex and you'd bust your nut in like a minute. That's not what we're trying to do. But so you combine that with perversion, and with the perversion side of things, it's like you're coming into sex from the angle of, like, okay, I'm going to have fun with this girl in all the kinky, perverted ways that I want to, that's going to get me off and I'm going to enjoy. That is going to get you there. That's going to keep you rock solid. That's going to keep you fun, enjoying it. And the experience isn't going to be this intense, anxious experience. It's going to be a fun one. It's going to engage your masculine. It's going to get you in that kind of perverted aroused headspace that you want to be in. And ironically, the fact that you kind of want to think of the woman as like your sexual muse, right? She's the inspiration for your uncontrollable lust, right? And that, as much as people will tell you that women don't like to be objectified, in the bedroom, they like to be sex objects. They like to be the muse for your uncontrollable lust. That is gratifying to her ego to get you off like that, or to inspire that lust in a man. That is a very that's a stroke to the female ego. So ironically, by coming into the sexual interaction from the frame of mind of, I'm going to do with you what I please, you're actually more likely to get her off, because you're just taking her like a wild animal and she's along for the ride, and it's more overwhelming and more exciting for her, versus you coming into sex from the frame of mind of, I really hope she likes me, I really hope I please her. Not only does that fuck you over, it also fucks with her head, because you put pressure on her to climax, to orgasm, to have a good, to validate your ego, right? When you come into it from that perspective and desperately needing her to orgasm or desperately needing her to like you, it really puts all this pressure on her, puts her in her head, and when she's in her head and uncomfortable like that, she can't orgasm. So you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot.
That's right. What do you think the pros and the cons are on like the industry and like all the stuff that's going on, like based on your experience?
Well, pros, like I said, for performers like me, it's good. It's a better way. What's things like OnlyFans, etc. It's going on right now. It's good for wages. Cons are it's a hell of a lot more competitive because everyone has gotten into the space now. Like every waitress during lockdown is now an OnlyFans girl.
Yep.
So unless you know how to market yourself properly, unless you know social media and you know how the game works, and there's a lot of girls who are getting into it who don't know how the game works, you're not really going to make money. And porn is for life. Like the internet, it doesn't forget. And so we're going to see a lot of young women in 10, 15 years' time, maybe even sooner than that, going to regret having done that because they thought it was a quick buck. They thought, and then, their work or their partner's going to, and we're seeing stories like this all the time now anyway. Their work's going to see what they've done. They're going to be like, all right, you can't work this corporate job. We can't allow that here. Or if their partner is like, what? You don't do those things with me in bedroom. I'm going to divorce you or I'm going to separate from you. So I think that's a real con that we're going to see. Another thing that's going on right now, which is kind of interesting, is Pornhub are actually being sued. They're being sued in multiple places. They're being sued in California, and they have to go to court in Canada as well. And this is to do with a whole bunch of abuse material and illegal material that was found on their website, which they kept up for a long time. So that is going to be what happens with that is really where we could see a massive shift and shakeup in the adult industry. If they collapse, if they go down, that's a giant. They're like the big swinging dick of the porn industry. They're like the Google of porn. It'd be like if Google disappeared.
You have to go on Yahoo.
What the hell would happen? What would happen? We don't really know. Like that is kind of the scale that this thing is, and most people don't even realize that this is what's happening right now. This could happen if they get their asses sued to high hell. You could see some weird things happen with the adult industry on the internet.
Exactly. What do you think? What are some good techniques every guy should know in bed?
Well, look, I'll give you a couple of like vanilla ones, right?
Okay.
Well, not necessarily vanilla, but like on the more tame end, because that's something that every guy can apply, right?
Uh-huh.
First of all, every guy should know how to pull hair properly. Pulling hair isn't about like grabbing a tuft and fucking yanking her head around. It's very hard for me to demonstrate because I don't have hair. But let's turn my head to the side. The correct way to pull a woman's hair is to come up from the base like that and grip at the base there. You got my elbows in the way. Coming up from the base like that and pulling upwards or back, right? Not friggin' grabbing a tuft here and yanking to the side. So first of all,
I'm going to take that advice, my friend.
Learn how to pull hair properly. And the reason why pulling a woman's hair like that is good is it triggers basically like a primal mammalian response. When you look at puppies, kittens, lions, wolves, whatever, all these mammals, look where they pick up their pups and their kittens from. They grab them around the tuft of the neck there, and they carry them around. We have the same biological hardware that they do. And that's why when you do that to a woman, it puts her in that submissive state. It's a default response. It puts her in that submissive place. So that's why it's a good thing to do. And it's a very enjoyable thing for women, especially when you pull a girl's hair properly, she notices. So that's one thing. Second thing I would tell guys is this is a really easy thing for every guy to do. Next time you're with a girl and you're in missionary, you're having fun in missionary position, really, really basic. Try try it. A lot of guys are like, this sounds a bit scary, even like something as vanilla as this. Just try pinning her hands down, like bang, like that, on either side. You don't have to do it too forcefully, too hard. You can let her escape if she escapes. She doesn't like it, fine. Most women are really going to enjoy it. And what you'll see, especially if you've never done this before, especially if you're not really a very dominant kind of lover, if you throw this into the mix with your partner, when you pin her hands down like that in a missionary position, what you'll see is her eyes light up. She'll be like, yes! That's the response you get. Because it's dominant, it's powerful, it's demonstrating your physicality over it. It's arousing, it's sexy. And it's any guy can do that. You just put your hands on her wrists and pin her hands down there. And like I said, it's consensual. It's not being a dumbass. And if she's like doesn't like it, you let go. But for the most part, women really enjoy that. So,
they're very interesting tips.
Yeah.
Do you have to stay in shape for being on shooting or like on call, or how does that go?
Yeah, you got to be able to cardiovascular health is very, very important. Because without a strong cardiovascular system, you can't get an erection. It's a requirement of the job. And the second thing, I do lots of kettlebell swing, hip thrusting kind of stuff, because that's basically the main muscle group that I'm using for my job. So that's kettlebell swings are the perfect they're the perfect exercise to translate into being able to last long in the bedroom and not have any muscle fatigue in the bedroom. Yeah.
What about nutrition wise? What do you find yourself having to eat in order to stay in the shape?
Now look, I'm going to be perfectly honest. Anyone can look at my because it's on the internet. Anyone can look at my film history, and you'll see I went from being really, really fit to being a bit of a pudgy bastard. That was because
on purpose.
It's because I got lazy. It's because I'm not now. I'm back in shape. I'm not like that now. But why that was? I thought I had to be super jacked to get booked, and then I started getting booked, and then I started getting cast as the stepdad. Because I'm an older guy. And then I got lazy and I started putting on weight, and no one stopped booking me. They all kept booking me because I looked more like a dad. And I was like, damn, this is a bad reinforcing thing. So I've since got rid of that way.
That's interesting. It makes sense though. It doesn't.
What I recommend, what I like to eat to lose weight and stay keep my body trim. I personally like to eat a paleo kind of diet. I like to follow the prescriptions of Mark Sisson in The Primal Blueprint. I think that's a fantastic book and a fantastic resource. The first time I ever got super jacked was by following that book.
Really?
Wow, that's pretty good. I personally do carnivore. I do a carnivore style diet, so I only eat really meat and eggs and all that stuff. Yeah. And it works. It works. Certain things will work for everybody. But
yeah, I agree. I think people try to get a bit too dogmatic. When I say paleo, some people think it's this really dogmatic thing. Yeah, I'm pretty loose and flexible with that, and I love carnivore, not that dissimilar to what I eat, Yeah, and so I think there's a lot of stuff that works for the majority of people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because we always try to tell people if they should try certain things, but if it doesn't work for them, they can always try to variate it or check things that are also very similar to to test to see what can work, because not everyone's going to have the same no one's going to have the same success as you or me or Andrew here. Everyone's going to be a little bit different based upon their body types and all that other stuff, but it's just a matter of giving it the try, because not a lot of people want to try. Everyone thinks that you hear the word diet and they're like, oh, I can't eat my Pop-Tarts and I can't eat all this other junk. Yeah, really. But you got to at least put in the effort to do something if you want to lose weight.
What I would say is that the best kind of diet is one that you can stick to.
Exactly.
So that's why I like the paleo diet, because it takes I'm not measuring calories. I don't have to weigh shit. I just follow these few. I like systems which there's a few simple rules, and it does the decision making for me, right? So it's okay, steak is meat and vegetables, and I cut out grains and sugar. Yeah. That's a pretty easy system to follow. So it's there's less rules, there's less thinking. It's not complicated. I can follow it with relative ease. And so that's why I fell into it.
Yeah, like if you like anyone can go on our Instagram and they can see like every so often I'll post a picture of my steaks and they're huge. These things are monsters, and I put butter and oils and stuff on top of it. And I'm like, yeah, like it's so simple for me because like it's something that I love. I love eating steak. Like it's so good to me. And so, if it's something that you like, and also goes back to discipline as well. Like certain people they'll try these things, but they're not disciplined enough to try to stick with it to see if they actually like it. But if they find something they like, then it'll be super simple, super easy.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, people don't really put enough emphasis into that, and it affects them long term. And then they wonder why they're depressed because you're not doing the fundamentals and taking care of yourself first. It's like, what are you doing?
Exactly.
What's like the worst porn experience you've ever had?
The worst. I had this one experience where I thought I had dislocated the girl's shoulder. So it was a threesome. It was a threesome scene, and it was for kink.com. So it was a bondage. So she was all tied up in this sort of intricate bondage, right? And she had her arms tied, and her arms were behind her back, and it was like a threesome. So I had like one girl like with her face here. I'm having sex with this particular girl, and I grabbed onto the arm, like the ropes on her arms, and pulled in kind of a doggy position, and she just fucking like let out this god almighty terrifying scream. And I thought, oh shit, I've just popped this girl's shoulder out of its socket or something. Like I'm done. And the girl, her agent was the best agent in the industry, and so I thought. And all of his girls are like the top girls. So I thought, oh shit, I'm done. Like I thought my career was over. I'm like, I've fucked up one of his girls. He's going to put me on his no list and blacklist me. I'm done. Turns out she had like different bondage in her legs. And what happens in bondage sometimes is if you sit in one position for too long, when you move out of that position, especially because you're restricted by the ropes, it's excruciating because the muscles, like it's something to do with the muscles, like going from like tight to tense or something like that. So that was what happened. She actually like it was just her like hip flexors. She'd gone from being in like this sort of bent over position to being in an upright position, and it had caused this excruciating pain through her thighs. So that's what she was like screaming about. But I didn't realize this until like 10 minutes later, when the director had unraveled her from all her bondage and stuff. I was like, whew, it was a close call.
Jeez.
Oh my
God. Day.
Yeah, no, that must have been like. I was like, oh god.
Yeah, not very good for getting a boner. I'll say that.
Yeah.
What's your advice to guys that like have trouble, like they bust too fast? Like how do you have more of a longevity during sex?
One of the easiest ways to sort of get around that problem is to pay attention to how you breathe when you're about to orgasm. So some people will hold their breath when they're getting close to climax. Other people will breathe really, really quickly when they're getting close to climax. Whatever it is, whatever you do, whatever your body does when it's getting close to you ejaculating, pay attention to that. And then what you can start to do is deliberately do the opposite with your breath. And what you'll find is that will start to take away sensation from your penis, and you'll re-establish control that way. You might have to stop the actual act of sex for a second when you do that, when you're first learning this. But the more you practice this, you'll be able to catch it sooner as well. And so you'll realize you're getting close. You're like, all right, time to change up the breath, regain control, and then we're back in the game. And for me, that's honestly one of the easiest and simplest things that guys can do to learn to avoid premature ejaculation.
Oh, okay. Very interesting. What about like guys and like I'm sure some guys probably come to you in like sexless marriages and they ask you, Sterling, I have I've been married to my wife for like 20 years and it just hasn't been the same in the past 10 years or 15 years. How can I get out of this sexless marriage or this boat that I'm on? The
way I tell guys to do that is you need to add spontaneity back into the marriage. So your love life, you have a sexless marriage because there's no passion. And you probably got to that point by being predictable in your lovemaking, by being scheduled in your lovemaking. That's something you'll see a lot in long-term relationships. Is people will get, especially the dudes, will fall into a pattern with their lovemaking. It's like, oh, it's Friday night is date night or whatever, So it's time to get jiggy with it. Friday, it's like a scheduled thing. And like scheduling and planning, predictability is the opposite of passion. So the logic dictates that if you inject some spontaneity into the bedroom again, you might start to kindle that spark again. So when I tell guys that they're in a sexless marriage or long-term relationship, whatever it might be, put yourselves in situations where you can be a bit more spontaneous. Maybe that's like driving, if you're in a secluded parking lot one day, if you get a bit raunchy, grab your missus's hand and put it on your dick. Maybe you'll get a BJ in the car. What it means is maybe when she's doing the dishes or doing some cooking in the kitchen, lifting her skirt up and having a crack at her there, being spontaneous with it, right? She might tell you no, cool, but it'll at least get her imagination going. This motherfucker just tried to have sex with me in the middle of the kitchen. You know what I mean? It'll spark things up again. And it's all about that spontaneity that is the key to reigniting that passion, at least in my opinion and from the experience I've been able to pass on to my clients.
Yeah, I see that in like a lot of longer term sort of relationships where, you know, months or years go by and it's like things have not been the same. I just don't, you know, things have not, you know, we don't have the spark that we used to, and I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
You know, it causes a lot of, you know, a lot of types of those situations. I'm sure you have a lot of, you know, clients that would come and ask you those kind of things.
Yeah, it happens a fair bit. And again, my kind of default for guys is to get back into their natural, like, masculine dominant role. That will also help her to get back into her natural feminine submissive role, and you're kind of reestablishing the correct dynamic in your relationship.
Somebody asked, what did you want to be when you grew up?
What did I want to be? Depends what age I was at when you asked that question. When I was like a kid, the first thing I remember wanting to be was a paleontologist because of Jurassic Park. So that was the very first thing I ever wanted to be. Yeah.
Can't blame me on that one.
Yeah.
Great movie.
Yeah.
What about what are your plans for the future?
Basically, yeah, make a bit more money through. I've got the idea of a couple of different porn brands I want to launch. Kind of capitalize on my knowledge of the industry and like the fact that I know how to make money in this industry. It'd be kind of ridiculous not to like take advantage of that while I can.
You gotta be an opportunist.
Yeah, and then and I've got a few different courses and products I want to release on like the educational side as well. And yeah, managing some OnlyFans accounts is on the horizon very shortly for other girls. Basically running things, teaching people how to run them that don't know how to run them. There's always opportunity there for that as well. Yeah. So I'll look, as much as I tell guys not to do that, if somebody doesn't want to listen to my advice, then I'll take their money. If they don't want to listen to my advice, then I'll take their money out of the way.
It is what it is at that point. Like, you help the ones you can, but accept that some just won't be helped.
That's actually that's totally the case. You can't help everybody, and some people do not want to be helped.
No, they do not.
Absolutely,
and they will fight you.
Yes,
they'll fight you to the death. Yeah,
they absolutely will. Gentlemen, I am going to have to wrap up shortly. I have to duck into another call on a meeting very soon.
It's all good. We'll end it up here. Where can people find you?
Best ways to, if you're on YouTube right now watching this, then you can just type in Stirling Cooper as it is spelt right here, under right here. Stirling Cooper into YouTube, you'll find my channel. I've got a ton of videos on there about overcoming a bunch of things we just talked about, like performance anxiety, erectile dysfunction. I talk about different ways to lay pipe properly, things to spice up the bedroom.
Yep.
You can also go to...
we just threw your courses right up on the screen as well.
If anyone wants to check out, some genius tips from Stirling Cooper, you can click that link and see what's going on. And
anyone that sees this after the fact, I'll have it also in the description below after the fact. So definitely go and check that out as well.
Much appreciated. That's stirlingcooper.com is sort of you can go there and you can find links to all my social media and all my products and things. That's the easiest place.
Yes, thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you.
Appreciate it, man.
Thank you, lads. It was a pleasure.
Yes, and we will hopefully talk to you very soon, and have a good one, guys.
Take care.
Yep.